Good afternoon folks, welcome to Visordown. My name is Toad and today we are coming to you from Almeria in Spain, where I've been riding BMW's update for 2025 F900R and F900XR. So there's been a bit of an update to both these bikes, a bigger update to the R than to the XR, but they've both had a little bit of a fettle and a little bit of a twiddle for 2025 just to bring them a little bit more up to spec with the competition. We've been riding both, all on road. Obviously we've not done any off-road or on track riding, but we've spent a full day riding them, done about 100 miles or so, and then swapped over at lunchtime, and then I had the afternoon spent on the R. Spent the morning on the XR and the afternoon on the R. These lovely roads all around Almeria that just thread up through the mountains, and for once this is probably the first time in about a week that it hasn't actually been pouring down with rain in Spain, so that's been absolutely joyous to experience. So I'm going to go through both bikes with you in one video, which is a little bit unusual, but just for time's sake, just to get through them. So the R for 2025 is coming in at 9,090 quid, and if you want to go for the more touring oriented XR version, you are looking at £10,890. Okay, what has changed? The big changes really are the suspension. So both these bikes have gained new USD forks, which are fully adjustable on both models. So it's a Marzocchi system, and you've still got the option of adding the dynamic ESA, so the dynamic electronic suspension adjustment to both models if you so wish. So they've also got new damping, rebound and compression settings within there. So the suspension has been completely overhauled basically at the front and at the back. Mated to the suspension, we've got new lighter wheels. So the wheels are said to be related to the wheels found on the S1000R of a couple of generations ago. So they save, I think, about 200 or 300 grams at the front and 200 or 300 grams at the rear, and they're the same across both models. There's a little bit more weight saving that's been had thanks to a lithium battery. So all things told, this bike is about 3 kg lighter than it was the last time round. This bike is around about the same weight. Everything else about the bikes really is very much the same. The frame, the engine, the subframe, you know, you've still got that 895cc parallel twin. It's pushing out about 105 bhp, Euro 5 Plus certification for this year. So that is all very, very familiar. We've also got the updated TFT on both bikes, which is very nice, very clear and very easy to read. In terms of navigating the TFT, you have got BMW's jog wheel on the left-hand handlebar. You either love it or you just don't really bother with it. I've ridden on a lot of BMWs and I can enjoy it for some things and find it a bit clumsy and not very good at other things. So it's just one of those, but it is there on that left-hand handlebar. How have we found the bikes out there on the road today? Well, they both feel dynamically very different from the previous bikes, and there's nothing else really that can do that other than the suspension settings. So the R is much more aggressive than it was before in terms of its handling dynamics on the road. It feels much more direct, feels a bit more pointy. It's got a little bit less of that front to back weight transfer that it previously had. The suspension is, it's not stiff, but it's up there. It's very firm, but it's not uncomfortably firm. So when you hit bumps and potholes in the road or bits of overbanding or whatever, it doesn't jar up your spine like some bikes do. But it does feel exceptionally sporty, which was the first thing. I'd been riding this all morning and then got off that to do some photos on this. And the first thing that I realised was how much sportier this was than the last one. I'll go through it in a little bit more detail in a moment. Another reason why this feels a bit more sporty and a bit more dynamic is the riding position has changed quite a lot over and above the previous bike. So the pegs are a little bit higher, a little bit further back. The pegs are a bit the handlebars are a bit lower, a little bit further forward. So it's just got you in that more sporty stance where you are just a lot more engaged when you're riding it. It's still very easy to get into all the right positions that you need to, because it's an exceptionally roomy bike with really wide bars, so you've got loads and loads of leverage on the bars, but it does feel a much more sportier proposition than it did before. This bike has also changed in those respects as well. The ergonomics have been updated on this one to make it slightly more sporty, but it's still a very comfortable place to be. Some of the taller lads on the launch today were saying that they felt like they were sat quite close to the bars. This is a bike that you definitely sit on. You sit in, you don't sit on it. Some of the people that were riding on the launch day said that they felt a little bit too close to the bars, but as a short ass with quite short arms, I thought it was absolutely fine. The suspension system on this has obviously been changed for this year. It's not exactly the same as it is on the R, obviously. It's been tuned to the XR, and I actually found it all right. The main difference between the two is it still feels like quite a taut suspension system. It's you know, it's got quite a hard setup, if I may, but what this does more is it pitches more. Forward to back, when you're braking into a corner downhill, you'll feel the bike roll forward onto the forks, and when you accelerate out of a corner, it will roll backwards. But in terms of the road holding and the balance and the, you know, the stability in corners, both of them have actually been exemplary today, and that's one of the things that I can take away from it that I've really enjoyed, is how comfortable I felt in the middle of the corner when you were sort of hanging off the side of the bike trying to pull it down. On that part of the corner, both of these feel very, very good. And there's one other thing as well that BMW seem to have updated. They've updated all of the electronics in both of these bikes, but they've also updated the throttle connection. And I get a lot of criticism on Visordown's YouTube channel for moaning about snatchy throttles and, you know, saying that people seem to think that I say every throttle is snatchy. The throttle connection on these two bikes is both absolutely beautiful. So these are two of the nicest bikes that I've ever ridden for just picking up the throttle out of a slower corner, when you're just coming around a hairpin and you're just trailing the throttle and it's time to pick up the throttle and then start making progress again. These two do that pretty much better than anything else that I've ridden, because it's just such a nice easygoing delivery, and you get into you get exactly what you ask for every single time that you do it. It's just brilliant. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that these two have got the best throttle connection just for rolling on the throttle out of those slower corners. It's just really, really nice to use. I was riding in dynamic mode on this one in the morning. This bike here I was riding in Dynamic Pro, which is the slightly sportier of the two the riding modes that it's got. But even then, in the Dynamic Pro, which would be the raciest of all of the modes, it still felt absolutely brilliant. It was a lovely thing to experience. So I'm going to sum up the two bikes really. So for me, the F900 R seems like it has stepped out of its shadow, if you will. It feels a lot more to me like a baby S1000 R than it ever did before. For me, this bike always sort of felt like a bit of a commuter bike and a bit of a sporty commuter bike. Top end commuter, if you want, a bit of the premium end of the spectrum. Now it feels like it's more of a baby S1000R. That's how I sort of get this bike. And I know it looks a bit like the older generation S1000 because they've given it the single headlight, and you know, if you squint a bit you could mistake it for an older generation S1000. But in terms of the riding dynamics and the engine, the way the engine punches through the rev range, the electronics with the updates that have been made to them, the road holding and the handling and the dynamics thanks to suspension, that is a much sportier proposition than it ever was, and it's much more of a baby sibling to the S1000R. This will do pretty much everything that this will do, in all honesty. There isn't much that this does that this can't do apart from absolutely chase that ultimate lap time on a track. But what this can do is get you from A to B on all the roads that we've been riding today, because we've been riding both the bikes in the same group, in pretty much exactly the same time. But it can do it with bags more comfort, room for two, room for luggage, and you know, long distance comfort and ability. That's what this bike has really got over that. That's kind of what it always had. It hasn't really changed. Which one am I picking if I'm gonna go out and buy one? If I'm picking one to go out and just you know, if I was looking for a roadster, then that is a very, very enticing proposition. It feels, both of them feel like they've taken a step closer, not you know, not just to their siblings but also to their rivals. This isn't anywhere near the price point of the Yamaha Tracer 9. You know, the cheapest Yamaha Tracer 9s in the range start at about sort of 14 or 15,000 pounds, but it felt before a bit more like a competitor to the Tracer 7, whereas now it's kind of gone further away and it's a little bit closer to the Tracer 9 despite being dynamically and technically less advanced than that bike. And it's exactly the same with this one and Yamaha's MT-09, for example. It feels like more of a competitor to the MT-09 than it maybe once was. Well, then that is enough for me from now. It's not the end of this launch though, because if the weather plays ball tomorrow, we are riding on track at Almeria on the BMW M1000R and the BMW S1000R. So we're testing those two bikes back to back. But for these two, I've waffled on long enough. I've been Toad for Visordown.com, and if you like that video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos. And for all the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, get yourself over to Visordown.com.